Shock Jock Howard Stern has loads of celebrity friends, but he also has plenty of celebrity enemies. These are just a few of the stars that have taken issue with the radio host's abrasive sense of humor. Jay Leno's trouble with Howard Stern can be traced back to one night, November 30th, 1995. That was when Stern appeared on The Tonight Show at the peak of his offensive powers. It's unclear what Leno and NBC expected of this appearance, but what they got was no big surprise. The radio host sauntered onto the stage with two bikini-clad women and made them make out with each other and receive spankings from him, while a visibly uncomfortable Leno kept piping up about how the network was going to edit all of it out. Stern dumped on other celebrities whose memoirs were competing for sales with his own, many of whom were frequent guests of Leno's. He even continued groping his companions as Leno attempted to have a conversation with his next guests, legendary film critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. NBC denounced Stern's behavior in a subsequent statement, and Siskel and Stern both publicly remarked afterwards that Leno was quite unhappy with the entire situation during the taping. During a 2019 conversation with talk show host Andy Cohen, Leno was asked about Stern, who, as Cohen pointed out, has called Leno every name in the book.
I didn't get in the feud, because you're not going to win a feud with Howard. Howard's good.
Right.
If you start that feud, boom, you're down. So if you just let it roll, and it's fine.
Tom Hanks might just be America's favorite actor, which is why it is a bit jarring that his son Chet became a rapper who likes to speak in Jamaican patois. Chet Hanks personally took issue with remarks that Howard Stern made in 2015 during an appearance on Rude Jude's Shade 45 SiriusXM show. Taking aim at Hanks, Stern said, "It irritates the shit out of me to see someone take hip-hop culture and appropriate it. It's like, come on bro, you're not from that. You learned how to talk from a video." Perhaps describing Hanks as having taken issue with the statement is a bit mild. In a series of profane posts on Instagram and Twitter, he asserted that he would not shy away from conflict with Stern, calling himself, quote, "a walking PR disaster," and pointing out that if his own parents couldn't make him shut up, Stern wouldn't be able to do anything in that respect. He had previously called Stern old and out of touch, saying, "Only old people listen to you. The young generation doesn't know you." Finally, in a since-deleted tweet, Hanks lashed out with, "I am going to see you in person and I am going to hurt you. Do you have any idea how badly I am going to assault you when I see you?" For decades, going all the way back to the 50s, Pat Cooper held down the New York comedy scene with a brash persona that was ahead of its time in many respects. Unafraid to bluntly call out the hypocrisies and injustices of the entertainment industry at large, Cooper's style made him a perfect fit for Howard Stern's show when it was taking off. Of course, Cooper didn't hold back from taking shots at Stern as well, which is perhaps why Stern rather pointedly left Cooper off his list of favorite comics in his 1993 memoir, Private Parts. This was a bridge too far for Cooper, and the relationship between the two quickly frayed.
My dignity is on the line here, and he ain't got enough fame or money to fuck with my dignity. And he better know that.
In 2001, a New York Magazine gossip columnist overheard Cooper brutally trashing Stern at a Friars Club luncheon. And after another rather prickly appearance on Stern's show, Cooper resurfaced in 2014 on Opie and Anthony, dropping nukes on his former friend. He ranted, "He's a f***ing baby. I'll go after him 24/7. I was his best f***ing guest. The only one that did take his shit. You people in America who like him, that's your privilege. But I learned a lesson. I quit." Carnie Wilson has a lot of hyphens in her job title. Aside from being an actor, talk show host, and reality TV personality, she's notched no fewer than 3 #1 pop hits as a member of Wilson Phillips, the members of which are all children of rock royalty. Carnie may be the daughter of Beach Boys legend Brian Wilson, but she's also a 4-time Grammy nominee and pop culture icon in her own right. Unfortunately, when she visited Howard Stern's E! Network television show, she was treated more like a slab of meat. Speaking with People magazine, Wilson remembered that as soon as she walked in, she was told to stand in a certain spot, where there just happened to be a scale. Stern then proceeded to spend the majority of their sit-down harping on Wilson's weight, even wondering aloud why her then-fiancé, Ron Bonfiglio, would want her. Wilson recalled, "I mean, he went nuts, just because he loves to fat shame. It's like a joke to him, but it wasn't to me. It was one of the worst experiences I ever had." Stern went so far as to predict that the marriage wouldn't last, but the pair wed in 2000 and have remained together since. For over a decade, Academy Award-winning actor Jamie Foxx resided a few stations over from Howard Stern on Sirius XM. His station, the Foxhole, offered up comedy, music, and of course the musings of Foxx himself. In 2010, during an episode of his series, Foxx took aim at Stern, who had recently stated that actor Gabourey Sidibe's weight would prevent her from winning an Oscar for her title role in Precious. Foxx took the odd step of formally declaring a feud, saying he hoped it would get some attention for Stern's sake. After all, in his words, Howard hasn't really made a big splash in a long time. Thus began a back and forth between the two that included cheap shots on both sides. Stern ridiculed Foxx and implied the actor was gay, while Foxx renamed the shock jock Coward Stern and accused him of having a chronic STD. The tiff eventually blew over, and in 2017, Foxx, whose station was taken over by frequent guest Kevin Hart in 2018, even went so far as to appear on Stern's show. His interview was quite cordial and professional, during which the blow-up between the two was never even addressed. Actor and activist Rose McGowan's beef with Howard Stern began when she visited his show in November 2001, and the subject of her ex-fiancé, Brian Warner, more commonly known as Marilyn Manson, came up. While McGowan was visibly uncomfortable during most of the proceedings, she became even more so when visiting this particular topic, reluctantly offering up vague information when asked why the pair had broken up. While she lightly implied that Warner's drug use may have been a factor, she never said so explicitly, which made Stern's line of questioning when he got Warner on his show in 2002 absolutely appalling. Stern told Warner point-blank that McGowan had eagerly discussed his drug use and called him an addict, which she hadn't actually done. Warner played along, stating that McGowan must have been using him for selfish reasons.
Why would she come on a radio show and talk about something very private, your drug addiction?
To promote her new TV show?
In a 2016 op-ed for The Hollywood Reporter, McGowan briefly referred to her appearance on Stern's show, confirming exactly how uncomfortable it had been. She wrote, "I was forced by a studio to go on Howard Stern, where he asked me to show him my privates while my publicists stood to the side and did nothing to protect me." Just before his death in 2000, legendary comedian Steve Allen, star of stage and screen, songwriter, author, and creator of The Tonight Show, sat for an interview with NPR in which he discussed a number of life's great mysteries, like what he thought happens after death. Among the mysteries Allen was pondering that day was how anyone could find Howard Stern to be funny. Allen was of the opinion that vulgar, shocking comedy was simply lazy, and he singled out Stern as the most egregious example of this, saying of the shock jock, "He never in his whole life said anything the least bit witty or philosophically insightful. All he does is talk dirty, like some emotionally disturbed 14-year-old. Allen then went on to contrast Stern with the likes of Lenny Bruce, whom he believed made shocking jokes in order to convey a message. He also said that even Stern's audience knew deep down that he was right, saying, "When the audience is shocked, it is very easy to make them laugh, even if they later go home and say, 'I was never so disgusted in my life.'" Dolly Parton needs no introduction, but just in case, she's a 3-time Guinness World Record holder due to her longevity in the music industry, one of the most prolific songwriters of all time, and simply one of the most beloved celebrities in modern history. The famously sweet-natured country icon seemingly never had a bad word to say about anyone, which made it particularly shocking when, in 2008, audio was released of the iconic singer saying some truly vile things. These weren't Parton's actual opinions, though. Howard Stern had edited her audiobook to change a perfectly innocent memoir into a declaration of hate. Parton was naturally appalled, saying in a statement, "I cannot believe what Howard Stern has done to me. In a blue million years, I would never have such vulgar things come out of my mouth. If there was ever going to be a lawsuit, it's going to be over this." Stern responded pretty much exactly as one would expect him to, saying, "It's an absurd bit. It's obviously parody and funny as hell. I can't even imagine someone thinking they have an actionable case, but bring it on." Seemingly nothing came of it, and any hard feelings were seemingly gone by the time Parton appeared on The Howard Stern Show a decade and a half later. John DeBella is a Philadelphia radio legend. His career on the Philly airwaves spanned 5 decades, and he finally took his well-deserved retirement in 2023. In the 80s, his main rival was fellow interviewer Howard Stern, whose New York-based show was syndicated in the area. DeBella's Morning Zoo show was the most popular in town, and this apparently did not sit well with Stern. He regularly trash-talked his rival and targeted some of his signature shenanigans in DeBella's direction. Stern went as far as to invite DeBella's ex-wife on his show to pile on, and even held a mock funeral for DeBella when Stern's show finally eclipsed Morning Zoo in the ratings in 1990.
We knew once the #1 situation was taken care of, once that happened, it was a countdown till his wife left him.
DeBella spoke about the rivalry with the Philadelphia Inquirer upon the occasion of his retirement, explaining, "In his mind, I was holding him back from expanding his show, so that made it nastier and nastier. At least it did so as far as Stern was concerned." DeBella generally was disinclined to return fire, which he believed made Stern even angrier. The shock jock did eventually get in touch with DeBella years after the rivalry had died down to apologize, which DeBella accepted. In 2006, Howard Stern had the opportunity for a dream interview with Roger Daltrey and Pete Townshend, the lead singer and lead guitarist of the legendary rock outfit, The Who. Unfortunately, one of those parties ducked out before the interview began. Townshend, who just a few years earlier had been charged with downloading sexually explicit material involving minors and was ultimately cleared, had requested that the topic be left out of the would-be interview. But Stern made it clear beforehand that no subject was to be off-limits. In a statement on his website, Townshend recalled overhearing Stern state his intention to broach the forbidden topics. He gave his side of the story, saying, "I would not say that I stormed out of an interview with Howard Stern. I would say that I walked away." Townshend claimed that he was not angry, pointing out that his status as a public figure meant that people could say whatever they wanted about him. That said, Townshend continued that he would not be a party to such a discussion that would, quote, "cause widely felt discomfort when not seriously addressed." Daltrey went ahead with the interview, and when it became clear that Townshend was not taking part, Stern jokingly asked if there was anyone who could do a British accent to imitate him.